Welcome to the world, baby Eric. Our friends and sponsors Ricky and Kelly of Groenfell Meadery have a new addition to their family. Ricky sent me a picture of little Eric being held by big sister Nora, and I'm really happy for all of them. In celebration of the arrival of Eric on Friday, everything goes on sale on Groenfell.com. This is a sneak peek, so you're hearing it here first. Ricky tells me the discounts are going to vary by item, so you'll have to check the website for details. So get you some delicious Groenfell and Havoc craft meads to toast baby Eric and welcome him to the world at a discount at growing, family-owned and operated Groenfell.com. That's Groennfell. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Steve Wilkes and I sample the very first water profile sampler. Listener Dansey Nickel sent us a recipe for 3 water profiles, malty, hoppy, and balanced. Will Steve and I be able to taste the difference in a pale ale? Stay tuned. If you go to basicbrewing.com, you can find archives of our audio and video shows. If you go to basicbrewingshop.com, you can find our DVDs and our brewer's logbooks. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Basic Brewing and find our show page on Facebook as well. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing. And thanks very much to everybody who's helping out. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. With the happy news up front of the arrival of a new life, baby Eric, we have to note the passing of another. This week we say farewell to Steve's mom, Shirley, who will be laid to rest on Friday. Susan and I have always loved to talk to Shirley at family gatherings. She was always someone that, it just brightens your day to sit and talk to her. And our thoughts are with Steve and his family as they say goodbye. It's been a rough time for Steve this past year for several reasons, I'm sure you know, and I'm hoping that things will trend upward and get easier for a while. I always look forward to getting together with Steve, and I've said for a long time that spending time with him has been one of the major benefits of producing this podcast and the video episodes too. So the good news is that we are both fully vaccinated now, so I'm hoping to be able to spend time together in real life this summer. So stay tuned, and I appreciate your support and patience. There's good news from our friends and sponsors Desiree and Dave of High Gravity in Tulsa. They're offering 20% off homebrew ingredients. That's right. During the month of April on highgravitybrew.com, you can get 20% off all homebrew ingredients just for being Basic Brewing Radio listeners. You know highgravitybrew.com is the place to go to take the pain out of propane with awesome electric brewing systems, but they've also got an incredible inventory of ingredients to make your next beer amazing. Just use the promo code BBApril2021 at highgravitybrew.com. It's not case sensitive. BBApril2021, and you can save 20% off your homebrew ingredient order. Use the fun and easy build-your-own beer feature on highgravitybrew.com and enter the promo code BBApril2021 and save 20% off your ingredients during April at family-owned and operated highgravitybrew.com. Okay, a few months ago I got an email from Dansey Nickel, or is it Dansey Nickel, suggesting a water profile sampler, and I thought it was an awesome idea. Steve Wilkes, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks, James. It's a pleasure to be back.
You're there in the back of stevesbrewshop.com.
.com.
Nursing an injury.
Holy crud.
Trigger
my
alert.
My life is such a mess. My dog bit me. My dog took out 2 inches of my arm. I'm not kidding.
And it was an affectionate thing, right? I mean, the dog. You have this giant dog that's as big as like
schnauzer.
It's as big as 5 dogs normally.
Yes, it is.
And
it weighs 100 pounds.
And Buddy is very, very affectionate and mouthy.
Yes.
You can just be walking along, and his head is right at the level of your fingers as you're swinging, and he'll like nibble your fingers on a good day just to say, hey,
Yep.
here I'm here.
He'll take your forearm on a bad one. And and yesterday, I don't know, he just went berserk. He went happy berserk on me. But you know what? Our listeners didn't tune in to hear about that.
No, but I was going to make a pun. Now you need the hair of the dog that bit you. You need some beers.
That's right.
That was a long setup just for that stupid joke. We're doing this. This is a first of its kind. This is a water profile sampler. We've had the hop sampler. We've had the malt sampler. Now this is Dansey Nickel. Listener Dansey Nickel wrote in a while back and said, I've enjoyed the hop and malt sampler series. I've got an idea for you that I think would be interesting revolving around water, and I've already done the math for you. So I'm a big fan of Dansey. Water makes a big difference in how malt is perceived as well as perceived bitterness, or does it? How about you make a simple pale ale as you've been doing with dry malt extract, but with a single hop, maybe something clean and not as fruity such as Nugget or Magnum. Recipe as usual and hopping rates, but each batch will have a different profile. And then Dansey outlined 3 different profiles, balanced, bitter, and malty. So suggesting different water chemistries per each, water chemistry profiles. And so what I did was I went, Dansey, one step further, and I did an all-grain batch. So here's what it is. Okay, so it's like the regular hop sampler, malt sampler. I'm sorry. I start off with 2 pounds or 900 grams of American two-row. And that I added to 5 quarts or 4.7 liters of water at 164 degrees Fahrenheit or 75 C, which gave me a mash rest temperature of 153 degrees Fahrenheit or 67.2 C, which I held for an hour in my brew-in-a-bag in the kettle in the preheated oven. And after that hour, I collected my wort and added 8 grams of crystal to each of these 3 batches with an alpha acid of 3.4% for a 30-minute boil. After that 30 minutes, I chilled it down in an ice bath, which took about 12, 15 minutes, something like that. And then I pitched 3 grams of USO5 into each of these batches. So the water chemistry, according to Dansey's instructions, for profile number 1, which is balanced, 0.5 grams of gypsum and 0.75 grams of calcium chloride for a chloride to sulfate ratio of 1.3 or balanced. Okay? Now we have to have a disclaimer that you and I are pretty novice at the old water chemistry game, right?
Well, novice would be an overstatement.
We'd have to advance before we're at the novice stage.
Yeah, I'm not that's right. I mean, I don't pretend or ever claim to have a lot of knowledge about water chemistry. I don't have it. I don't partake of it. I don't believe in it.
Now, wait, did you take part in an experiment with John Palmer and members of a homebrew club? I can't remember which homebrew con it was. Was it you or Andy that sat down with John Palmer and these other homebrewers who had done this experiment and tasted, I think it was either porters or stouts with different water chemistries, and we were able to taste a difference?
I think I missed that one.
Okay, well, it's in the archives somewhere.
Yeah,
you've been to every homebrew con that I've been at. So
yeah, I know, but I think I was probably off
napping
or or chasing some other kind of beer at that moment.
Gallivanting.
I was gallivanting.
Okay.
Well, the
but
thing
it
is,
but water chemistry does make a difference.
it definitely makes a difference. I don't mean to downplay it or at all. I just generally have learned. Actually, as a lazy brewer, I've learned to brew. I've learned that I do pay attention to the water profile, but I've learned that I use the naturally occurring water profile in our water, Northwest Arkansas, to brew beers that work with our water.
Right. Right.
Which is different than saying, well, I'm definitely going to brew a Pilsner or Kel, and now I'm going to make that water.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that. Okay.
So
go ahead.
So remember, profile 1 balanced 0.5 grams
Yes.
of gypsum, 0.75 grams of calcium chloride. Okay.
Yes.
So profile number 2, bitter.
All right.
1 gram of gypsum, so we double the amount of gypsum, and then 0.5 grams of calcium chloride. So we go down, what is that, 25.25 grams for the bitter.
Okay.
And then profile number 3, 0.5 grams of gypsum, which is the same as the balanced, and 1.5 grams of calcium chloride, which is double the amount of balanced and triple the amount of bitter. So,
Okay.
So there you go. Okay, so the balanced is that the result is a chloride to sulfate ratio of 1.3. For bitter, the result is a chloride to sulfate ratio of 0.3. And then for malty, the result is a chloride to sulfate ratio of 2.6. So,
Okay.
So
And that's what. So according to Dansey, and I don't doubt his references or where he got his data from, but according to him, that these ratios will accentuate either maltiness or bitterness or present a balanced hop to malt perception in the mouthfeel. That's what we're really after.
Correct. And you said Dansey. I said Dansey. I asked if I could use his name. I forgot to ask how to pronounce it. So,
well, I think that's a German name. I think that's a German or a Scandinavian name, and so I want to pronounce it the way a German would.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Well,
I could be dead wrong.
I'm probably most likely wrong. So apologies. It's just like me to screw something up nice that someone has done for us to do this, all this math. Now, I screwed something else up as well because the recipe calls for starting off with either distilled or reverse osmosis water. And you know what I did? I didn't do that. I used filtered water, which takes the chlorine out, but it still keeps our Northwest Arkansas water chemistry. So I screwed up.
Which is relatively hard water.
I think so, yeah. I think it's like minerally. Mm-hmm. See, I've already stepped way too far into what I know.
This is why I never go there.
And refer to the archives, because I actually had John Palmer on the show to talk about. I sent him the Northwest Arkansas, the Beaver Lake, Beaver Water District water profile, and he actually, talked about what beers I should be brewing. Of course, I've forgotten all of that, and but so okay. With that proviso, maybe I've just completely screwed this up, and we won't be able to tell a difference, or maybe this will accentuate certain things about these beers. Maybe.
Well, you've got to accentuate the positive.
Eliminate the negative.
That's right.
And then so we'll see if it's just way overboard on these chemicals. Maybe that's why. So we've got our 3 beers in front of us, and Susan helped me bottle these. And we carbonated with carbonation drops, Cooper's carbonation drops in each bottle. And here the beers are. They look the same. Number 3, I'm actually using a real glass this time. Number 2 looks a little lighter than the other two, but I don't know if that's just my eyes or. Number 3 looks a little teeny bit darker, maybe.
Yeah, I think that 3 is a little darker than number 2. I'm in the Steve Wilkes Tyson chicken egg candling room.
Didn't know where you're going with that.
Well, it's where I do the secret candling for all the egg production for Tyson. Not many people know I do that here.
Each one individually.
That's right. But I could also candle a glass of beer at the same time, and which is what I get for it. And I can tell you that I'm actually holding it up to a light bulb, and number 3 is a little bit darker than number 2, and number 3 is a little bit darker than number 1, according to my scientific process.
Yeah, I think number 1 is a little bit darker than number 2. I don't know what this means, but there it is.
There it is.
So these beers have been sitting out for a little while. So let's sample beer number 1.
No, number 1.
That's nice.
It's a nice beer.
Mm-hmm. And
mine.
I forgot to do the original gravity and finishing gravity. The balanced started off at 1069. The other two started off at 1071. They all finished at 1010. So that makes me wonder if I just didn't make a mistake with measuring the balanced. So they are around 8%. The one, the balanced is at 7.9. The other two are 8.1. So these are, good, decent-sized beers.
Yeah. And they feel like they drink like that too. They don't drink like they're not wimpy.
No,
they're not small.
Wimpy. They're hefty. I would say there's a nice level of bitterness and a nice level of maltiness with number 1.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I wish might have been poured now for probably 15 minutes or so, and it's going a little flat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hit it with some fresh beer. See if I can rejuvenate it.
My bottles have been in my kegerator. I guess I need to clean the kegerator because of the floor of the kegerator because their bottles are sticking to the countertop.
There is a twinge of chemicalness to it. It tastes a little bit like, well, I don't know. It tastes
a little minerally.
Minerally, yeah. But I can't quite put my finger on the mineral, but definitely has a little wang.
But I would say just on its own, fairly balanced. It's got like I say, a solid level of bitterness.
Yeah,
it's it does have a little bit of a minerally character at the end of it. Let's take a quick break from sampling to talk about our friends and sponsors at Imperial Organic Yeast. Casey at Imperial tells me things are going well at their new East Coast production facility in Philadelphia. That's great news for commercial and homebrew customers. And the seasonal yeast from Imperial is L09 Que Bueno, which is available through the month of May. I've already brewed a Mexican, in April and May. It's available all the way from now to the end of May. Just to be clear, I've already brewed a Mexican-inspired lager with Que Bueno, and boy, it is delicious. Que Bueno is awesome for creating light to dark lagers with clean, low ester aromatic profiles and crisp and dry finishes. You can let your imagination run wild because it's great for a wide variety of styles. Mine is mostly Pilsner malt with some Vienna, Munich, and flaked maize blended in there. And the result is malty with a clean bitterness from Czech Saaz hops added at the beginning of the boil. And the Que Bueno took it from 1051 to 1010 in just 3 or 4 days, at a temperature of 58 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 C, which is what it was in my basement. I like to say my stir plate is dusty because I don't use it anymore to make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. With a pitch rate of 200 billion cells per easy-to-open pack, I'm covered, even for loggers. Ask your local homebrew store about L09 Que Bueno and Imperial Organic Yeast, and check them out at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. Let's try it. I'm going to try beer number 2. This one, I smelled hops a little more on this one. I don't know if that's coincidental or not.
I felt like I got a little bit more mouthfeel out of it. Seemed to be a little, I don't know, richer, more rich.
Huh.
Certainly not much difference, but it is different from number 1 though. That is curious to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so these are exactly the same beers, right?
Yeah, except for the chemicals.
Except for the water, yeah. So, except for they're not, because this is definitely a different. Just tastes different.
The hops may
but
be
not so different.
The hops may be a little brighter with this one, number 2. Brighter than number 1, maybe.
Yeah, I think they are. Oh yeah, they definitely are. Number 1, the hops are a little more subdued. They're a little. The flavors, everything about the beer is a little flatter, and I don't mean that in the sense of carbonation. I mean that the flavors are a little more flattened, like an equalizer in a stereo, the flat.
And I'm getting more of a hop flavor, not just the bitterness. There's more of a fruity character coming through on number 2 than number 1.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Number 1, the hop character is kind of one-dimensional. Number 2, it's more citrusy and a soft citrus, like a tangerine kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that I definitely prefer number 2.
But again, there's kind of a
there's definitely a wang.
There's a residue, maybe like I wanted to say like a saltiness, or maybe a
baking soda.
Baking soda, yeah, I could, yeah. What is baking soda? I've forgotten.
Calcium bicarbonate.
Oh,
is that right?
Yeah. Well, you get your hands free. You could look it up.
Oh, I could.
You got a computer there in front of you.
Yeah, but then I'd lose my MapQuest directions to Catfish John's. I think it's calcium bicarbonate.
That's what they do on certain streets in New Orleans. They catfish Johns. But that's another...
That's right. That's another story.
It's a family show. Yeah, I prefer number 2. But there is kind of a residue-y kind of a thing going on. And I'm afraid that it's because I started off with, our regular minerally water and poured more stuff on top of it. Which I will not make that mistake again.
Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate.
Sodium bicarbonate. So
that's where, yeah.
It's why maybe it tastes salty.
Yeah. Well, but this doesn't have sodium bicarbonate in it.
Right. But I was saying that it tasted kind of salty, and then you said baking soda, and it said, yeah, that tastes right. So somewhere out there's a chemist that's yelling.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of people
riding the Peloton, listening to us and yelling.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. We get our revenge when commas and semicolons are involved.
That's right. Yeah, you get us on the grammar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so all I know is at the moment, back to reality, is that number 2 is a more pleasant beer.
Yeah, and I've got beer number 3.
Right.
I've got beer number 3 in my hand.
Okay, well there you go. And number 3 is a very pleasant beer too.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
actually, I quite like that. But again, there's a little bit of a chemicalness to the taste.
Mm-hmm.
Am I just imagining that?
No, there's a residue.
Okay.
And I'm not blaming Dansey/Dansey.
Right.
I'm blaming me for not using reverse osmosis water.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just over mineralized.
And I picked up ingredients at your store today to do the next round of the water profile sampler, and I'm going to get the distilled or reverse osmosis water next time. So this will be a good experiment. No data
Boy, it really will.
No data is bad if you can use it, you know.
That's right. Right. Can't say the same thing about pizza.
Yeah, there's some bad pizza.
There's some bad pizza out there.
So would you say number 3 is more malty or more hoppy?
I think number 3 is more malty.
I do too.
I think it definitely has the most mouthfeel. It feels like it almost reminds me a little bit of like a Helles.
Huh. It's a little more hoppy than a Helles to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Hoppy as far as bitterness is concerned.
Yeah. I don't mean to say that it is a Helles by any means, but it reminded me here's where it reminded me of. I bought a 6-pack of Polliner Helles, the famous Munich Helles, at one of our local constabularies, and and it was a great beer, and I enjoyed it. It was actually a little bit too. It didn't have enough hops for me. As good a beer as it was, but this reminded me of it.
Huh.
I don't know how exactly, but the flavor is very similar.
It's pretty crisp though, but compared to the other two, the hops aren't as bright. I don't.
No, they're not. Number 2 has a nice bright.
Ooh.
Nice
the hop flavor. The hop flavor is wonderful.
Yeah, it's got a really nice. I really enjoy. Yeah, number 2's got a nice flavor. That hop flavor comes through. The malt is still there, but it's not predominant. But it's not a bitter. You don't get bitter beer face from it. It's just got a really pleasant hop flavor that's kind of candy-like. And I really like Crystal. People ignore Crystal to their detriment. Crystal's a great hop. And so it's a good choice for you to use it in this experiment.
Well, I picked it, honestly, because of the alpha acid level being 3 point.
Because it was low?
3.4%.
Yeah. Well, it's just got that really wonderful kind of candy-like, and in this one, I'm almost getting like cotton candy.
Huh.
And soft fruit, not strawberries, not really citrus, maybe melon and cotton candy, and a little bit of citrus. And it's very nice.
Huh.
That's my favorite. That has become my favorite. Let me hit number 3 again. Number 3 is nice too, but it doesn't have the same flavor profile.
Yeah, number 2 is just like juicy and the hop flavor really comes through. There's a nice malt backbone, but it's not like super malty.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, number 2 is the winner for me.
Yeah.
Number 1, I between the 3 of them, I didn't really care for number 1 now. I just, it's just not when once I've got the second beer in front of me, I would not drink the first beer. The third beer I'd probably still drink, but
there's a harshness to number 1 that's and the chemicaliness seems to come out more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty prevalent. The second beer, actually, as it's warmed, and I don't know how this works. When you have just a little bit to drink. So I haven't been pounding beers all day. We just started with this experiment.
As far as they know.
As far as I'm being honest here. As far as they know. No, we haven't been drinking all day. We don't do it. We don't work that way.
No.
We really don't. And so
we sleep most of the day, and then we start drinking.
Most of the day. Yeah. and
no.
So at any rate,
For the record.
After I put my cigarette out, and then I'm not drunk, but I've had just enough that I can't tell if my taste buds are a little sharper or a little duller. That's where I'm really headed.
Well, that's the thing, and
And I
part
mean
of it
that
is
sincerely.
and part of it is these beers have warmed up. I mean,
Yeah.
when these beers were all cold, I was,
They were kind of harsh.
well, and it was at the beginning. It was like, oh, we'll never be able to tell any different. These are all exactly the same, as I do with most of these sampler shows. When the beers are cold, I'm like, oh God, I can't talk about this for 30 minutes because they're all the same. Balanced, bitter, or malty? Which do you think is number one?
I think number one's bitter.
I think so too. So beer number two, I'm thinking it's balanced
Me too.
because it's right in the middle. The hops are bright, but they're flavorful and coming through. But the malt is also there in the background, and to me, it's just a balance between the two, and that leaves number three as malty. So Susan randomized these, so she put the number one, the number two, and the number three on there. So only she knows what right now what they're. But it'd be interesting if she had any logic in how she did this, or not. Maybe she just randomized them. But,
Well, I can say that I think that number three, I kind of agree. I think that number one's bitter, number two is balanced, number three is malty.
mm-hmm.
And I would go a step further and say that number three is malty, not just because of the process of elimination, but because I think it is more malty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's as far as the bitterness is concerned, it's kind of flatter. I mean, if you,
I like it.
Yeah, I think
But
all three.
I don't like it.
If you were to give me a pint of this, I would, of any of these, I would be fine. I would definitely want another pint of number two, but the chemicaliness on number one is probably the strongest, and number three is second. Just the kind of that, and again, it's probably my fault for not using, reverse osmosis water or distilled water. Next time, I promise I will. So, shall we unveil?
Yeah, let's do.
Number one is bitter. Yay.
It.
Number two
Okay. Wow.
is balanced. Yay.
Wow. Are you kidding me?
We got it right. I'm so happy.
Wow.
Yay. Number three is malty. Yay.
Okay. Well.
So even if you pile, if you don't use the water calculators and put your water profile in to offset that and make sure everything's cool, even if you start off with water that's already got minerals in it and you add more minerals on top of it, you still get the effect.
No matter how bad you screw it up.
Wow.
Actually, no, very drinkable. I would drink number two. I mean, I think number two is a presentable beer.
Mm-hmm.
I would share it with my friends. I would share it with other brewers.
Hmm.
Number one and number three, I probably wouldn't. They're okay. I'd drink them, I guess, probably, maybe if I was desperate. But number two, I think it's a really nice beer. So whatever happened chemically, with the additions, they also played well with the water chemistry that was present, already.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I think number two to me tastes more like just a regular hop sampler beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just tastes like a beer.
It just tastes like a nice juicy, the recipe that I generally use for the hop sampler, it just tastes like a straight down the line juicy, hoppy, drinkable, delicious beer.
Yeah, it's really good.
And so I'm wondering now whether the balanced water profile is close to what we have here in Northwest Arkansas. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
And that might take some more research before the next water profile sampler to find that out.
That would be very interesting.
Maybe I'll go back into our archives and listen to that interview with John Palmer telling me how to do the water chemistry. Oh, well, this is great.
Yeah,
I'm pleased, not just because we got it right, but because we again, have proved that water chemistry does matter, and that if you've got bad water chemistry in your area, you should be using either better water or figuring out how to fix it. I mean, that's the thing is that our water in Northwest Arkansas, the water that comes out of our taps, is pretty darn good for making the beers that we make, and we're lucky in that way. But I know that that's not so in other areas of the country. If your beers are tasting bad, look at your water chemistry, and maybe that's a place where you can do some substitutions.
Absolutely. There's a lot of places where there's a lot of iron or a lot of sulfur.
Mm-hmm. Dansey, thanks. And I'm sure I'll be getting an email shortly after this episode. But this is an awesome concept, and I'm going to use the same recipe. That's where I was going for the next iteration of this. And I'm going to add a little dark malt in to see if if we can accentuate a little bit of that, and that will be the next incarnation of the sampler series. So,
are you going to use the same chemistry profile, the same water profile?
Yes, but with reverse osmosis or
water.
Distilled water. We'll start with a blank slate as far as the water is concerned.
Okay.
So,
but a little dark malt.
Which will be interesting to see if we taste the next batch and say, "Ooh, this tastes chemically," or not.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Yeah.
At least to us.
All right.
Because we'll be drinking when we do it. So.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, James.
Well, thanks again to Steve and to Dansey for the inspiration. I've already brewed the second water chemistry sampler, and I added a little bit of roasted barley to see if that makes a difference. And it's in the fermenters now. And I did use RO, reverse osmosis water, this time. So stay tuned for that. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. And thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing, and where Steve and I are supposed to get together next week and shoot new video episodes. So we'll get back on track for you guys who are supporting us through Patreon. It's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.